What is up, everybody? Welcome to Mount Mograph. My name's Matt, and in today's video we're going to be doing Summit 14 and be making this blaster cannon. So check it out. So yeah, basically I mentioned yesterday, or just in a past video if you're watching this not today, that makes no sense. Strong start here at Mount Mograph. But anyway, a lot of this build is actually made with shaders. So yesterday we did this really simple like sci-fi ripple, I think I called it. But today we're gonna be actually getting into like practical animation that actually like builds something cool that's like a standalone thing. So I think that's pretty cool. It didn't take me too long. I think it took me maybe like maybe I want to say about 20 minutes, maybe even a half hour. Here, I'll show you guys this one real quick too. I was just messing around and I was like, oh, I'm gonna try to make something awesome, but I like ran out of ideas as I was making it, and it just turned into this really crappy, super crappy thing. The only thing I like about it is these discs at the beginning. How it looks like there's like a little engine or something, and then it just gets worse and worse progressively. So I ended up just remaking it with this, which just looks a little bit better, you know. And because I was like, I'm gonna make a blaster cannon, because when I first started it, I was just like building something and I had no idea what it was. So yeah, it's good to go into designing something with an idea of what you're gonna be making. Otherwise, you'll make crap like that. So anyway, let's go into Cinema 4D. This is gonna be my last Cinema 4D tutorial for like a week, I think. I'm gonna put up some After Effects stuff. Why is this frozen? Oh, pressing the wrong key. Yeah, I gotta put some After Effects stuff up. I've just been doing stuff at my house with Cinema 4D because I've been working on After Effects a ton at work, and I'm just totally sick of it. So yeah, let's start by creating a primitive, and we're going to make the base of our blaster cannon. So we're going to create a tube, and let's just turn our inner radius maybe down to, let's say 40, and we'll turn our outer radius to 50. Let's see what that looks like. Actually, let's turn our outer radius to 43. That looks good. So one of the things, since we're not really doing a low poly animation, we're going to want to turn our segments of all our primitives up a little bit for the most part, especially for these round ones. Here, I'll show you. So if I do a quick preview, you can see it's a little jaggedy on the edges. So all we'll have to do is just go into your attributes and turn your rotation segments up. I'm going to put mine to like 80. And as you can see, we get more segments and it should be a lot smoother. So that's going to be something we'll be using for this video. Yeah, and so that's about it. So anyway, let's turn our height down for our tube. I'm going to turn mine to 13. And now let's create another primitive, a cylinder. And we're just going to turn the height down of this maybe to, let's go 10. And we'll turn our radius is actually fine at 50. I'm going to turn my rotation segments on this one also up to 80. And I'm going to just move it down a little bit on the floor. So we have like a platform or a base, maybe even turn my height down a little bit more to 5. And that looks cool. So let me name this. This cylinder is going to be our base. Our tube is going to be like our, what should I call this? Opener? That doesn't even make sense, but I don't know. I don't care, and I don't think you guys care. So anyway, let me actually hide my grid. That's really annoying. Okay. So now what we're going to be using is a cloner to animate the iris opening, and it's really easy to do, and it's a really nice looking effect. Additionally, I'll be using my axis center a little bit in this video. So if you don't know how to get that, you can just right click somewhere and go to customize palettes and just type in axis, and it's going to be right here, axis center, and you can just dock that somewhere or click it, or not use it at all, whatever works for you. This is just like my workflow. I really like using it. So with that out of the way, let's continue this video and make something awesome. So in your primitives, let's go over to our polygon, and we'll select that. In your attributes, change it to triangle, and we're going to turn our width down to, let's say, actually 65 works great. And I'm also going to turn my height down to, actually, you know what? We'll leave it at 85. So press C on your keyboard to make your polygon editable, and I'm going to put my my axis point just by using my axis center at the why isn't this working? Oh, whoopsie. It needs to be on the Z. So I'm just going to put it at the end of our polygon, and that way I'll be able to rotate it on the edge. See how that works? So that's something I like. Additionally, you can also just press L on your keyboard or click this button to move your axis point if you don't want to mess around with the axis center. Anyway, so now that we have our polygon, let's go into our Mograph dialog box and grab a cloner. And we're going to drop our polygon into our cloner, change the mode under your object in your cloner to radial, and we're going to set it to X and Z. So we'll get this star, and we don't want that, so let's rotate our pitch to 180 degrees. And that's going to turn our star in. Well, it looks like we have like 3 stars now. And now we're going to go into our radius, and we are going to turn our radius, well, it doesn't have to be perfect. You can zoom in and just try to get the points to touch. So mine will be, let's see, like 86 or 87. Wow, 85 on the dot. That's nuts. Well, that's helpful. I guess it's probably would make sense that it's the distance of whatever the height is of your polygon should be the radius. Go figure. Math coming in handy. Anyway, what I'm going to do now is turn my count up in my cloner to 9, it looks like. So there's going to be a little bit of overlap, but I'm not going to worry about it because we'll be doing, we'll go into our transform properties on our cloner and turn our banking. Just turn it up to maybe 2 or 3, and this is going to create a kind of like fan-like camera iris, which looks really nice. So now that we've done that, we're going to move our cloner. Just press E on your keyboard for the move tool. I'm going to move my cloner just so it comes up a little bit higher on my, actually I'm going to call this opener. I'm going to call this a rim because that makes way more sense. So on our rim, it's just going to come up right close to the top. So we're now going to be using a bool to cut our cloner so it is just this big like overlap pancake look is going to be hidden. So just duplicate your rim and drag that above your cloner, and now turn your outer radius way up. So it looks like I'm going to turn mine up to 138 and also turn up your height a lot. So right now this is obviously awful and we don't want that, but go into your array objects and select a bool and drop your rim in first and then drop your cloner in, and boom, we now have it cut, and it looks like it is just, I don't know, it looks like we cut it out perfectly, which we kind of did with the bool. So on your rim, I actually suggest turning your inner radius up 1. So it was at 40, I'm going to turn it to 41, and that just means it's going to go a little bit over this instead of right to the edge of my other rim, if that made sense to you guys. Anyway, let's continue. In your cloner, what we're going to do is animate the, I'm going to call this an iris opening, and I think it would just be the, I believe it's the, let me see, yeah, X. X is what we're going to want to do. So go forward, actually set your timeline a little bit longer. I'm going to set mine to 10 seconds just to give us enough room to work. And at 5 frames or 6 frames, I'm going to hold command on my keyboard and click the X property in my transform on my cloner and go forward to, let's say, 41 frames or a minute and 30 seconds, or what is this, like a minute and a half or a second and a half? I don't know what I'm saying. Whatever. So then I'm just going to turn this number up till my iris disappears. So I'm going to set mine to 47, and now when we play our animation, it looks like it opens. So that was pretty easy, and it looks pretty good. I'll just pause it here, and as you can see, we get this really, really nice looking effect. So now what we're going to do is, as this iris opens, we're going to like telescope like a hydraulic thing or something, I don't know, just out of this little hole. And how we're going to do this is just duplicate your base, because it's already a cylinder, so it's all ready to go for us. And let's just lift it up for a second to size it right. And I want to set it so it is, let's see, just a little bit, it like goes almost to the rim, but not quite. So I'm going to just turn the scale up a little bit, and that looks good. So as you can see, we have a little bit of a gap in between it. And now what I'm going to do is press C on my keyboard to make this editable. And I'm going to, let's see, move my axis point to the bottom. I'll actually show you guys. I'm going to move the axis point instead of in the middle of my object. If I set it to Y over here, I did a video on this, so if you don't know what I'm talking about, just watch that one. I don't remember what it was, but as you can see, it jumped a little bit, and now it's on the dead bottom of my object. So now if I was to scale it up or down, it's only going to scale up, and normally if I hadn't done that, it would scale both ways equally, which is just kind of annoying. Okay, so anyway, now that we have our what I call this, like, inner hydraulic thing set up, let's just scale this up a lot to about there. Looks good. It's whatever looks good to you guys. You don't even have to be making the same kind of thing as me, but I mean, it works out pretty good. So now what we're going to be using is actually a shader, and our shader is going to be very helpful. I'm actually going to turn this up more than that, and you'll see, and I'll use a bool to cut it. But it's better to work with too much than too little, as I found in Cinema 4D. All right, so I'm just going to scale this down. And this will also work great for our shader. You could also just animate this by hand, but since this whole point of this video is to show you guys how you can use shaders for stuff, looks like I will be using a shader. So yeah, I'm just duplicating my my hydraulics, and I'm going to give it 3 little segments, and then I'm going to, now in order to use a shader, since the shader is an effector of our Mograph module, you can only use effectors here with a Mograph object. So since these are not Mograph objects, we're going to just drop these into a fracture object, which will allow us to then put an effector on it. So drop all of those into your fracture object, and the color will change. That's because, why does that change? There's some option that makes it change, but anyway, so don't worry about the color change, we'll fix that later. So now that we have those in our fracture object, let's go into Mograph, Mograph Effector, and grab a shader. So there we go. And if you are selected on your fracture, the shader will be added to it, and you can tell because the color goes crazy and it sizes up. So you go into your shader properties, and first let's turn our color mode off because we don't want to see that annoying color, and also uncheck your scale, and it'll be normal sized again. Woohoo! So how we're going to be using this is go to your fall off and set your shape to let's say box. So we're going to get this stupid looking box, and we're going to just scale it up to whatever. I'm doing 100, 206, and 100, and so now I'll be able to, now I'll be able to move it, and we'll get our changes in our animation based on what our parameters are on our shader. So in your effector, or rather your parameter, like I just said, let's turn on our position keyframe, or our position option. And I'm gonna, as you can see, if I change the Y, it'll change whatever's in the shader. Did that make sense? I hope so. But basically, as I drag my shader over it or under it, it'll change. So that is very, very cool. And that's just an easy way to create like a hydraulic lift thing. So how did I do this last time? I'm just trying to remember what I did. So if I grab these and pull them down here, once again, we will be putting a bool here, and that's how it's going to change. But so if I drag this, all right, that is kind of helpful. I really want it to have a bigger separation, so turn this up to 180. So as it goes through, that's fine. So I'm only using this, we could have easily animated that by hand. I'm only using this to show you guys how this all works, because I'm a nice guy. So anyway, now that we have our shader there, let's add an animation to our shader. So we want it to basically, once our iris has opened, so right there, okay, so our shader is going to start moving. So just select your shader and select this button down here to create a keyframe, or just go into your coordinates and set a keyframe on your Y properties, and then maybe go forward like 20 frames or something like that, and just move this down. And as you move it down, it'll scale up, and that looks pretty nice right there. I'm gonna set it so there's a pretty big gap between each of the layers, and I'm just going to set another keyframe. So now if I was to play this animation, we have the iris open, and it pops up just like that, which looks pretty good. I'm also going to just move my keyframe back so it goes a little bit slower instead of like out of a crazy game. So that looks good to me. What we're now also going to do is on our fracture object, let's go into our Mograph module with that selected and go into your effector and go down to a delay, and I'm going to put my effector to blend if it's not already set to that, and just turn it up a little bit. And what this does is just smooth out your animation so it's not so jerky. There you go. And it's kind of like eases into place. So that looks good. I'm also going to click my top traffic signal right here twice to make it red, and that's just going to hide it from our view, but it'll still work in our scene. So now that we have that set up, let's add a bool object to our fracture object. Also, I should name this stuff. This is our iris, and everything else is all right for right now. So just grab another bool object, put it onto your scene, and we are going to make a primitive, a cube. Just press C on your keyboard to make it editable, and let's see, just move it to the bottom of your base, and then I'll just scale it up. And basically it's huge. I probably went a little crazy with it, but it's fine. And then I'm going to drop my cube into my new bool object I just made, and then my fracture object into my bool. And what that will do is now cut our hydraulics as it is coming out the bottom. So it looks like it's just stuck in there, which is a nice little trick. So there we go. Cool. Let's name this hydraulics. Hydraulics. How do you spell that? There we go. Cool. I don't even need to save it. I do that always by accident. Okay. Now our next step for this animation is going to be adding a cloner, another cloner object that's going to kind of, let's see, I'll show you, pop out, I don't know what these are, we'll call them like energy panels or something, out of the side. So how we're going to do that is just with a cloner. So we're going to build a quick little object, attach it to a cloner, and then use shaders for the animation, just because this is like a shader based video and we need to use those. So just make a primitive, a cube, press C on your keyboard to make it editable just for easy modeling, and we'll just make a, I don't know, like a little panel. Doesn't have to be sized right now. That looks good to me. Holding command, select, I'm going to actually name this panel. So holding command, drag out your panel, and I'm going to name this support 1, and I'm just going to scale this down both ways. You can't see it yet, you will in just a second, and scale this up. So there we go. That looks all right. Just duplicate this. Cool. So now we have very basic structure. So now I'm going to grab both my supports and put it into my panel, and that will do that. And let's see. Oops, that is the wrong way. What do I want it to be? Well, so far this is, oh, I need to do this. You guys don't need to do this stuff. This is just kind of for me and making it easier. But, that was a stupid one. Alright, sorry, I'll get back to the video in just a second. Now I'm just gotta fix it. Okay, cool. So now what we're gonna do is place our panel. Actually, I'm gonna scale down my panel just a little bit. And go into your Mograph, grab a cloner, and drop your panel into your cloner. On your cloner, select the mode of radial, and then select your plane to be XZ, and there we go. So it's kind of nice that it just positioned itself properly, and it does have, just for how I made it, it has a little bit of a funny tilt to it, so I'm going to fix that with my transform. And that is going to be, how far do I have to tilt it till it looks not crazy? Let's see, I'll go into my top view. Looks like it's going to be 32 for me is the magic number. All right, so now that I have this sized all right, I'm going to now just scale my panel down a little bit, select my panel in my cloner, press T on my keyboard, and just drag it. And this way I can still just change the size of my cloner objects. And it's still a little big, so I'm just going to scale down my cloner. Okay, so this, dang it, why are my panels crooked now? Okay, enough of that. All right, so now that I have my panels on here, I'm going to just make a couple more of them. We love our panels here, and that looks good. So I ended up having 7 panels, and now I will be using a shader. Remember, this is a cloner object from the Mograph module, so I can add shaders to it. I'm going to go and select a shader. Go down here to shader. We get our color change indicating it has a shader put on it. Go into your parameters and turn your color mode off. Turn your scale off. Actually, we want our scale on. I was just kidding. And what we're going to do is... Actually, no, don't do that. Sorry, turn your scale off. Turn your position on, and we're going to change the Z. So just turn the Z down enough to where it's like tucked inside of your hydraulic part. And now go into your fall off and change this to a box. And now if I was to drag it up, as you can see, we get it either pops on or pops off, which is a nice look. So if it's not on, actually what I should do is go into your shader and go to your fall off selections and just turn it on to invert. So that way, only if the shader is on our hydraulic section, our little things, it's going to turn on. And I will also make my shader height or my size a little bit taller, just because we'll have a couple of these clones on here. So that is how that's made. So now, since that's done, let's call our cloner super panels, just because I wanted to name something stupid. And also go into your Mograph module, select an effector, select a delay, and that'll automatically get put onto our super panels, as you can see. In your delay properties on your attribute manager, let's go into our effector and turn this on to spring. And this way it should bounce a little bit if we when it comes out, which I kind of want just because it looks a little, I don't know, looks a little exciting. So we'll go with it. So now that we have our super panels affected by these things, if I duplicate it, that same duplication will have the same effectors on there. So you only need, the shaders can be put on multiple objects, which is a nice feature. And so now I'm going to take my super panels and I'm going to go into my hydraulics and my fracture objects, and I'm going to drop my first super panels into my base one, which I believe is, yeah, my base one is this bottom one right down here. So now that my super panels are attached to that, I'm just going to reposition it onto my section here. And why is it not being affected by my cloner, or my shader, sorry. All right, just give me 2 seconds to figure this out. Well, that's not what we want. That's stupid. Let's see if I can, maybe I need these on my fracture, maybe. We'll see if this works. If it doesn't, we'll just, oh, I know why. It's because I had it on, okay, yeah, I know what happened. So basically, we're gonna turn that delay we just put on off, because what it does is literally delay any changes you make. So if I was to just be on one, this is good that this happened actually. So if I was just to be on one frame and then change something, but I have a delay on there, you're not going to see the change until you move the animation. So now that my delay is off, you can see it's working as I thought it was supposed to originally. So grab your super panels and hold command and just duplicate them into base 2. And then we're going to actually, move your shader down just onto your hydraulics just so you can see what's happening. And now just move your super panels up onto this second hydraulic section. Duplicate it one more time and put it onto your third hydraulic section. And just move it up. Maybe scale that one down. That top one is a little bit bigger than the other ones. So does that work? I think it works great. Okay, so now that that's set up, let's turn back on our delay and nothing will happen, but let's animate our shader. Which is so annoying, as you can see that happened. But if I move it, there's the delay. So I want to start as soon as this this hydraulic system has risen, so maybe to about here, I'm going to click my shader and set a keyframe and go forward a little bit and just drag it so all the red fall off section is on top of my is on top of my hydraulics, and then press another one. So now for us to play this, the delay will work. Let's see. So that happens as it drops down, boom, pops out. But the cool part is, now that we have that spring delay, they're actually going to have a little bit of a bounce to them, which looks cool. So let's see. Pops out, and see how there's like a spring? So that's what the delay spring will do. Go figure. Let's add one more shader to this, or actually, what we should do is add it so it spins a little bit as it rises. So go into your hydraulics. What are we doing here? Sorry, that's not a good thing to say. What do I want to do? Just blanking for a second. If I had a... Okay, so go into your hydraulics, and you should have that fracture object that we put our actual segments of each of the hydraulics in there, and go to your Mograph module and select a step effector. So the step effector is something we haven't talked about before, but what it does is literally, it's easier to show you than to explain it before showing you. So if I was to turn on the rotation, I'll turn on this one. As you can see, the bottom one's going to rotate the fastest, and then basically it affects whatever the effector's on by steps. So if there's 3 different parts of it, it's going to affect them all differently. So now what I'm going to do is go to, let's see, about here. So right before the little, whatever we called them, the little guys pop out, and just set a keyframe on your H and of your rotation in your step effector, and go forward a little bit. Actually, go forward to the end of your animation and turn this up to like 500. So set a keyframe. So now when I play this, it should spin at different speeds really quick. So check that out. That looks nice. As you can see, the top one's not moving at all, which is a little dumb, but it's fine. It makes everything look a little cool. So cool. Now all we're going to have to do to be done with this is add one more shader, just because we should, just so you guys can see how to do it, where we'll actually pop our panels out at an angle. The same way we had them pop out of the middle. We'll just do a rotation and drop our shader down on them, and then we'll just build the top real quick with a bool object in a symmetry. So anyway, I hope you guys are liking this video. I think it's kind of cool. I'll do a little render, and as you can see, it's looking pretty decent. So let's go and select our sorry, I'm starting to blank now. Select your super panels, all 3 of them, and go into your Mograph module, effector, and grab another shader. So as you can see, they all change the color because of that stupid color mode on our shader. Turn those off, turn your scale off, turn your rotation on, and we're going to, what are we going to want to tilt it? So let's tilt it to minus 23 on our pitch, and just make sure they're still connected at least. And So that looks good to me. I might actually just go to -18 here, and now go into your shader 2, where I'll actually call this rotate, and go into your fall off. Turn this onto a box, zoom out a little bit, turn your box radius up, and now what we're going to do is once they have popped out, so like maybe as they start to pop out, like right there, just set a keyframe and make sure your rotate is selected, and go forward to, I don't know, just go forward a little bit to whatever looks good for you, and then just move your shader down onto your object, just like we did before. So the fall off, the red fall off, is all over our hydraulic system, and create another keyframe. So let's play this animation. I'm also going to hide that because it's a stupid looking thing. Play this real quick. So it pops up, those come out, spring a little bit, and then they all kind of pop out, and that looks nice. So that is the power of shaders, and we're just gonna go ahead real quick and create one more little touch to our blaster cannon, or whatever I said this was, and then we'll be all set. So let's see. Yeah, so this is a little bit all over the place, but I think this has been pretty easy to follow, and it's only been a half hour. Time flies when you're having fun, I guess. Let's go and now create, how do we want to do this? Let's create a cube, and we'll just drag this out. Press C to make it editable, and just scale this down. So I'm going to go for like a stick or something like this. I don't know. That looks good. And then just a holding command, drag out a copy. Great. I'm going to actually put these all into a null and just call this blaster body, just to keep our object manager a little bit cleaner. And then these two sticks are going to be our support beams for our blaster cannon. So let's create a cylinder. Where the heck are you? We'll press R on your keyboard to rotate it 90 degrees. Just actually parent it to one of the cubes. Or you don't have to parent it, but I'm just going to do that for a PSR update. You can also just use your eye and move it over. Scale this down a little bit. Let's zoom in. It's annoying. I'm gonna have to keep moving around every time I put something in the scene, which is my fault. So I'm just gonna press C to make that editable and scale it down so it kind of, so it just sits right in there, and that looks good. Duplicate your cylinder and scale it up a lot. And now go into your top view. Where are we? Okay, so in your top view, select that duplicated cylinder, the bigger one, and select your polygon mode right here. Go and select your rectangle selection off this menu. And in your attribute manager, say unclick this, only select visible elements, turn that off, and just select about, would it be half of your polygons? You're going to get all the orange. Press delete. And this way, we're going to get a half. Actually, that was stupid. Don't do that. I think there's actually an easier way to do it. Sorry about that, guys. I'm blanking. Let's go and create another cylinder. Just drag this over here and rotate it 90 degrees as we did before. Great. And now in your cylinder attributes, let's go to our slice options, turn on slice, and there we go. It just cuts 90 degrees for us. Even easier. So that's way better than what I was trying to have us do. So rotate this 90 degrees, scale it down. Let's turn our height down in our object. Height right here. Cool. I'm actually going to rotate it. So this is gonna, when it first pops up, it's gonna look like it's part of the same hydraulic system until it's going to split apart and you'll realize it is not. So cool, that looks good. So what we're gonna do is click your two cube legs, right click them and go down to connect objects and delete, and I'm just going to call these support beams. On our cylinder, I'm going to call this hinge, and on this cylinder I'm going to call this cannon 1, because because this is going to be the first part of our cannon. So now what we're going to do is take our cannon and make it a child of our hinge, and we're going to take our, wait, is this right? Yeah, and then take our hinge and make it a child of our support beams. So you'll see why in just a second. Okay, so now that we have that all built, let's go forward, just scrub through in your animation till you have that, maybe them start to tilt in, like right about there looks good. I'm gonna grab my support beams and let's see, I will, okay. So right when that starts, I'm gonna just set a keyframe right there. We'll use another bool to cut it so you can't see it, but I just wanna get the basic movement down. Just put that up about there, looks good. So as that is raising, I'm also going to rotate it. So let's see, that's going to raise up and then go forward a little bit more on your timeline and press R on your keyboard, and we're just going to turn it out to about here. Set another keyframe. So now it's going to raise up and then split apart, or really just kind of looks stupid, but it dips over for a second. So now halfway through that dip, as it starts to pull apart, what I'm going to do is go into my cannon and I'm going to set a keyframe and then go forward a couple frames, and I will be rotating it 90 degrees. So it's like that. And so now it's going to lift up and tilt over, and then I'm going to want it to come back together. So go select your hinge. Sorry if I'm kind of not explaining this the best right now. I'm trying. I promise. It's kind of confusing, which I feel bad about, but there's nothing I can do. So let's see. Now just put this back to 0. It's going to be your banking, and make sure that is keyed. So now when I play this, it's going to raise up like this, tilt off to the side, spin, and come back together. Boom. So that looks all right. And now what we're going to want to do is, all right, so just on your support beams, go and create a new array object and set it to symmetry and drop your support beams in your symmetry, and there we go. So it's just gonna, basically a symmetry object just creates a duplicated side of your object. So now when I play this, obviously we haven't put a bool on it yet. That's coming up next. Pops out, raises up, splits apart, and I only had to do one side, and comes back together. So now what I can do is just turn off my symmetry for a second and go into my cannon. And what I'll do is just create another child of the cannon and delete these keyframes here. Let's see. Scale this down a little bit. And now as it's rotating, so as it starts to rotate, I'm going to set a keyframe on this one. Go forward a little bit to not too much. Press E on my keyboard and move it forward like that. And now I'm going to duplicate my cannon one more time. As another child of our other cannon is, wow, this really is getting confusing. I'm trying, I promise. And I hope you guys can follow along. I feel bad that it's kind of getting hard to explain. But yeah, so just play around with it if you're really lost, or leave me a comment and I will do my best to answer your questions. So now I'm going to have this one come out like that, and that should be good. So then I'll put my symmetry object on, and we'll have this cannon. I won't put, on my version, right here, I pretty much did the same thing, except I just put a tube on the last one with a little cone popping out, but we don't need to do this. This video is long enough, and you guys should have the idea. So now what I'm going to do is just grab my symmetry object and grab a bool object, and I'm going to create another cube. And what am I going to do with this cube? That is a great question. Just put it there, drop that into my bool, drop my symmetry object into there. Cool. So now this should, in theory, actually I'm going to have to move my cube up a little bit more. So just hide it. So pop up, pop out, and there we go. So check that out. You can add materials. I just added a really simple one, but that is how you use shaders for animation. So yeah, I hope you guys like this video. I'm happy to answer any of your questions if you have some. And I really look forward to if you guys want to shoot me a video of what you guys end up making, like some cool blaster cannon or whatever. Yeah, I'd love to see. I think it'd be awesome. Oh, I forgot to make a keyframe on this last one. My bad. So we'll set a keyframe on that. And whoa. So yeah, that's your blaster cannon. You can add materials and stuff. And hopefully you can make something that looks this cool. I think this looks cool. I mean, it's easy, it's quick, as you guys just saw. So yeah, let me know what you guys think, and yeah, get your learn on, and that is about it. I'll talk to you guys later. See ya.